This episode is brought to you by Henry the Adjuster. Honesty when you need it the most.
All right. So we're just going to dive right into this. Another hot topic going on in Florida throughout the entire state. Are people infringing on our Second Amendment rights? In Florida, we're trying to really define that. So we're going to go ahead and watch a video as, we look at both sides of the aisle, discuss what Second Amendment rights really mean.
What would this bill have, what kind of effect, if any, would this bill have had on the catastrophe at Stoneman Douglas 5 years ago?
So the permitless carry bill that the Republicans in Tallahassee are teeing up for passage would not have had an impact necessarily on MSD. I think it just makes it more likely that there are other events like the tragedy at MSD, right? We're opening the floodgates and letting folks have those firearms on their person.
So the bill has morphed. We watched the last committee meeting in the Senate this week. There are very familiar arguments that we've had on this program for and against. This time there was a lot of talk about literally tens of millions of dollars now in this bill going toward things like hardening of school infrastructure to school personnel, even mental health assessments and counseling. Does that make a difference to you?
The new parameters that they've put into the bill are mirroring what was passed in the Marjory Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Act and would apply it to private schools. But and while there may be some positive provisions, in my opinion, it's like putting lipstick on a pig. I think it's disingenuous to take a bill that makes us less safe, right? Allowing anyone without a background check, without any training, without any proficiency with a firearm to carry a firearm in the state of Florida. You throw a couple of school safety measures in there. Again, lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig.
He made a point, like there are people who don't listen to laws. They're carrying permitless right now.
Glenna, under that logic, under Representative Fine's logic, why do we have laws at all? Bill, right, is if you buy your gun from a private sale, right, or the gun show loophole, there's no background check. If you, under this new law, there would be no background check for you to carry on your person. So you're going to see an increase in the number of people carrying on their person in this state. And the other states that have passed it have seen that become very problematic. So we're removing that. We're removing any requirement whatsoever and allowing basically a free for all. So back to your original question, what do I think that impact would have had in the situation at MSD? I think we're going backwards. I think post MSD, you saw the passage of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Act. That was a step in the right direction. With proposals like permitless carry, like the proposal that came out last week to reduce the age back to 18 years old to purchase a long gun, you're seeing us go back in time in the state of Florida, and it's truly unfortunate.
And it really is the onus of a responsible gun owner to go and get that safety training and be a responsible gun owner. Why would a permit change that personal responsibility component?
Sure. Look, if we have a problem with the current training, maybe we should increase the training. Maybe we should make a standardized training program through FDACS, right? There are options there. Just doing away with it because it's a bare minimum isn't the right answer. In the state of Florida, you require 240 hours of training to do nails. You require 600 hours of training to
do nails,
hair.
like manicure nails?
Correct. To be a nail technician in the state of Florida, you need a license and you need 240 hours of training. To cut hair, you need 600 hours of training. If this bill passes, you need 0 hours of training to carry a concealed firearm anywhere in the state.
Well, this right now, we're going to take a look at the contrasting view to what Representative Dan Daly was saying from the Democratic perspective, and we're going to look at Randy Fine's perspective from a more conservative point of view on Second Amendment carrying rights in the state of Florida.
Here, take a partisan-free approach, and we dig into both perspectives to flesh out what to expect. And we begin right there with State Rep Randy Fine, Republican from Brevard County, who was one of the co-sponsors of House Bill 543, Florida's current concealed carry bill. It is so good to have you aboard, Representative Fine. Great to see you again. I know you can't see us, but we can see you.
I can see you, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, okay, awesome. All right, well, it is this bill shouldn't be a surprise to anyone paying attention because the governor and House leadership have been telegraphing that it's coming and are very supportive. Start us out today by framing why do we need this bill?
Well, 25 other states have it right now, and the fact of the matter is Every state has permitless carry. They just have it for criminals. See, having gun laws don't create magic force fields that make people do things. And today, criminals carry guns without permits all over the state. All we're proposing to do is give law-abiding citizens the same rights and freedoms that criminals are doing right now. I would remind people that nothing about this bill changes the permitting requirement to purchase a gun. That was something that you actually got wrong in your upfront statement. Whatever you have to do to buy a gun, that doesn't change. But carrying that gun, once you've gone through that full background check, you will not need a government permission slip for. And again, I would note that today, criminals are not required to go and get training, whatever training the left wants, in order to carry those guns. We're simply creating an even playing field, and we're standing with the rights of law-abiding citizens. Our opponents, on the other hand, unfortunately want to give criminals special rights that law-abiding citizens don't have. But we encourage people to get training. Both of my boys are Boy Scouts, and they have had extensive gun training as part of what they do to become scouts. We're not against training. I think responsible gun owners should do that. But I think this gun training mantra is being used as a red herring to simply come up with excuses and barriers to, again, put law-abiding citizens at a disadvantage versus criminals that don't care about our laws. We again just want to create a level playing field between criminals and law-abiding citizens. Well, I supported most of the bill when I voted for it. I mean, in any large piece of legislation, there are often things that you don't like, but the good outweighs the bad. I think that bill on the whole has been great. And as I've talked to my sheriff and other law enforcement folks around the state, they're very glad we passed it. I'd vote for it again today. That doesn't mean that we can't move forward and continue to protect the rights of Floridians by saying you don't have to get the government's permission in order to carry that gun that you've already gotten permission from the government to own. I'd tell you two things. One, correlation does not equal causation. So the fact that that exists doesn't mean it's related. But I will tell you this. The data shows that the overwhelming majority of gun-related crimes are conducted by people who aren't following the law. They're not following the law. They're buying guns they're not supposed to have. And
I
so
understood. I mean, completely
you,
point taken. Yeah.
Yeah, the notion that if you, the left approaches these laws as though they're magic. I often note, how can mass shootings happen in places like California or Chicago? They have restrictive gun laws. If gun laws work, those things wouldn't happen. So there's this false sense of security that somehow passing a gun law will actually prevent something. It doesn't, because criminals don't follow the laws. As my sheriff in Brevard County says, you are your own first line of defense. We simply want to allow citizens to be able to protect themselves from criminals who don't follow the law. Well, I live in the 9th largest county in the country, and my sheriff was at the press conference. Mm-hmm. The Florida Sheriff's Association came out in support of this bill. So I can't speak to what every citizen and what every sheriff is doing in the state. It's my understanding the overwhelming majority support the bill, because whether you're in Key Largo or Umatilla or Brevard County, these issues can affect you.
All right, so let's weigh in on this.
All right.
Yes, let's weigh in on this.
So I'm gonna start off weighing in on this. listening to Dan Daly. Right away, it starts off with lies, right? And it lies and scaring people, which they're good at doing, and and the narrative. So there is the same process to obtain the gun. You got to have your background check, and you go through the cooling off period. Those are the two most important things when you buy the gun. The permitless carry really reflects on the training. Anybody, in my opinion, anybody that goes and buys a gun that's going to be a responsible gun owner is going to learn how to use that gun, or they should.
Yeah.
They're not just going to go out and start taking apart their gun and waving their gun around the street and doing all the hoopla that the left wants everybody to believe that is going to be happening, right? Mm-hmm. It's a shame, in my opinion, it's a shame how the narratives change, because what Representative Fine said is 100% true. Criminals don't give a crap about our laws. They're going to obtain the guns, and they're going to use the guns for what they want to use them for, and they are not trained. And if you watch how they hold the gun, they point the gun, they shoot the gun, they're not trained. They buy them to commit violent crimes, right?
Because they know you don't have a gun.
Right. Right. So the playing field gets leveled. I fully support. Now, I do believe that when you buy the gun, you probably should be handed some kind of pamphlet about training schools, and ways to learn how to use your gun and maintain your gun safely. Right. And if you're a responsible owner, you should take those courses and pay for it. So I believe the pamphlet and the information should be given out. I don't own a gun, so I don't know how that happens when you buy the gun. But this information is the problem, and scaring the public, to me, is senseless. Because the first thing everybody says on the left is, do you want to, and this is what I heard when I was campaigning, right, from the left. Do you want to go and you want to go to Publix and see somebody walking around with AR-15 on their back? I don't really think that's going to happen.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I hope not. And I hope that there's something that deters that.
Right. But so that's, I mean, that's how I feel about it. I think that there's nothing really wrong with the way this law has been, conducted and put through, because nothing changes to get the gun. Right. Once you pass the background check before the law and then after this new law, you either get the gun or you don't.
I mean, all licensing creates a barrier of entry, right?
That's right.
Like, right. But to actually get past a background check like that, you don't have to do anything. The gun shop does it.
Right.
So whether you're buying it from a gun show or whether you're buying it from a gun shop, right? I mean, I went to like a hole in the wall down here in North Miami. It's a pawn shop and it also sells guns, right? So
They all do.
I mean, when you buy the gun, they have to go through all the procedures to get your background check, right? They get your social security number, they get all that stuff, and then they do a background check, and then you're done. Like, that's it. Then you wait. Like for me, it was I think it was a 7-day waiting period before we actually got our gun. Then we went back, we picked up our guns, and then we left. Like, that's it, right? As far as the permit goes, then they give you a package and they say, here, go apply for the permit at the Florida Department of Agriculture. Of course, like that was a pain. That was harder than to get a gun, right? Like, first of all, I applied in January. By the time I got everything, right, it was like July. And you think about like, I mean, like, isn't this my Second Amendment right? Right? Of course, like, why can't I own the gun now? I passed the background check. I'm fine, right? Everything's perfect. Like,
Well,
so.
let me ask you, Lynn, what did that permit do for you when you got it? What was it all about?
No, it was just, so it was all about money, right? You pay money, you get this permit, so you can conceal carry, right? Which, I mean, like, I would probably never put a gun holster on my waist walking out the house, right? I mean, I just for what, to go to dinner with friends, like, I'm going to carry my gun. No, I think I'm probably going to be a little bit, even if, on a normal basis, right? Like, if I were to go someplace that's a little scary, I would probably still put it in my purse, in a holster, right? And the truth is, like, I haven't shot a gun in a long time. And the gun that I bought, I never practiced on. I only went to feel how it feels in my hands. And then when the guys actually do the training, you're sitting there watching a video. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. Like, this is, like, I mean, that kind of training is really not enough. But the point is, if you are a responsible gun owner, you will want to know about your gun, right? You will want to go and to the range and learn how to shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I mean, my husband was like a sharpshooter when he was in the military in Thailand. So, I mean, he knew how to fire it. Like, he was hitting the target all the time. So me on the other hand, right? Like, because the kickback, like, I had to go through a whole thing. And no. I mean, I kept shooting the crotch. So
I think that's psychological.
What a better way to hurt a man, right?
Most women shoot the crotch, and I don't know why.
No, the thing is, because the gun will actually spring, like, it'll go up. So my natural response is to push it down, right? So every time I push it down, so the gun hits the crotch. And it's funny because if you look at my target, it goes all the way down, like from the waist. It's like one long string.
At least you know that you're not damaging any vital organs.
Oh.
So basically, Lynn, you went through that. You got your permit, yeah, and your training was watching a video.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Okay,
just watch
so
YouTube.
we're eliminated watching the video.
So no, I mean it's really
Ultimately.
silly, but you know the video is like about 2 hours long. I'm not kidding, right? Like we're sitting there together, like watching it, like practically falling asleep. But basically, it's like a standard video that tells you like what's unlawful, what's considered self-defense, blah blah blah. You know, shooting this up in the sky, in the air, whatever. You know, all of that. Like they were telling you what you can and cannot do, right? Of course, like I mean, I think those things are still important, and people should know the law of owning a gun and not know, you know what I mean? Like, but law-abiding citizens, right? We care about this.
Mhm.
And I think the point Randy Fine was trying to make was that like, hey, there are these people out there who don't have training, who probably got the guns, like they're all illegal guns, right? They could buy them from anywhere. They probably have Uzis for all we know, which is illegal in America, right? So they could have all these guns, but they don't need any permit. They don't need any background check, right? But of course, like if we want to be law-abiding citizens and we want to make sure that we are stopping people who have mental issues or, you know, are dealing with mental health, or people who have committed crimes in the past, they have more potential of committing more crimes now that they have guns. So sure,
But-
I mean, like, let's take that out, right? Let's even the playing field, like you said.
But let's go back to what you just said with mental health. Okay.
Hmm.
The only way they would catch mental health in a background check is if the person was committed and had history of mental health. So
See, that's something that they should really hone in on. Like, I think like how to assess like what level it is that it would be, you know, that they should, you know, that red flag should go up, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where they should focus on, and the intricate details of this with like a mental health, like a group of mental health professionals. And like if they were ever, you know, if they were ever, what is it? What's that act called? If they were
Baker Act.
Baker acted, right? Then they should, if they were ever Baker acted at some point, I mean that should be something that's noted on their record. I mean-
It is. But the problem is, say you suffered a mental illness in
Mhm.
silence. You never did anything. You never acted on anything. And one day you exploded. You went to the gun shop. Now this is just another view, right? You went to the gun shop. You passed your background check because you're a clean citizen. And then you waited 3 days in a cooling off period. And then you went and did something bad.
Well, the MSD kid was the same thing, right?
No, he was in the system.
Oh, he was in the system.
He was already in the system. The
No, there are
FBI
many
had
people
leads on
who-
him.
There are
The
many
FBI
people
actually
who.
failed that whole thing. This kid should never have happened.
So
but he
that
did.
background check wasn't sound then.
That background check was not sound. No.
See, my goodness, right? Like with technology being as advanced as it is today, like we can't get that background check right. So that's something that's, you know, I mean, no amount of training or you know what I mean? Like that's not
Yeah,
going to make
exactly.
a difference.
No.
Because if the background check fails, that's the problem. So like I thought, from my understanding, was that kid had never committed anything before, and he went and got a gun, but of course he had mental health issues, and then that's what happened.
No,
but a
he
lot
was
of these-
in the system for the FBI. I don't know the full details on everything, so I don't want to misquote anything. But I do know, and actually I was at a Republican dinner the other night, and a guy that worked in the FBI, who's now a commissioner, he was telling me, he says the FBI failed Marjorie Douglas with Nicholas Cruz. I mean, they knew he was a problem. They knew he had issues. And there was all kinds of red flags going on the social media, and and they had him and questioned him.
Mhm.
And
No,
he
so
slipped
that's,
right
I
through.
mean, they should look at something to, put this in place. And if the government does fail and something like this does happen, then
Well,
the
that's why they
government
paid
should,
out all the money to the families.
hush, hush.
But the real problem is anybody that is a law-abiding citizen would not be a Nicholas Cruz.
Right. No,
Nicholas
I mean,
Cruz
I
would have
wouldn't.
happened whether he failed that
Regardless.
background
Mhm.
check or passed it. He was going to find a gun and do what he did, regardless.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
laws are only good for people that want to follow them. That's really the point.
Right. And the
Exactly.
fact is, there's less people that want to follow him. So right now, like Randy Fine says, law-abiding citizens are playing from behind, playing from a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So all he's doing is saying, listen, they're still able to get the background checks. They're still able to legally, go through all the checkpoints to purchase their gun. He's just saying now you have permission to take it out of your house without having to pay a bunch of money and
Right.
keep yourself safe outside of your home.
Mhm.
Because that's all you do when you're able to purchase a gun without the class. All you're doing is keeping it locked up at home. What happens when you go out in public as someone who's able to utilize a gun safely, but you left it at home? So you're evening the playing field by being able to take it with you. And a lot of times in those very states I've seen where, someone goes to commit a crime and the person that stops the crime is a gun carrying citizen.
Right.
So,
I think there was like a shooting in church or something, and then somebody carried it into church and like stopped that, like in
in
Texas.
restaurants and banks and a lot of different.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of videos.
Mhm.
Even outside of someone's home. One time on a Ring camera. This
No,
guy
I
was-
think if the representatives want to pass a law of some kind, they should pass a law where, like, if there were law-abiding citizens in there and protecting and defending
Mhm.
like their surroundings, right? Like right now you see all these people who actually have guns or shoot these people, they're getting sued, right? And it's like it's actually working against them. Remember that couple? I think they were in Chicago or Illinois or somewhere. It was like a lawyer guy and his wife, and they were standing in front of their house
No.
protecting themselves.
I'm not familiar with that one.
And like a bunch of all these Antifa people came into their property and they were saying, get out. One's holding a handgun and the other one's holding a long gun. And then they sued him for that. But it
Well,
was
it's just like anything else, right? You touch somebody, break up a fight, you get sued. Trying to be a law-abiding citizen.
yeah. And this is where I think the law needs to change a little bit, right? I mean, like, this has to not be, I mean, especially there was a video like recently, I don't know where that was taken, but a guy came in, robbed people, right? Like held everybody up at gunpoint, took some money from different people, their wallets and whatnot, robbed the store. And then like on the way out, the guy who was sitting there eating shoots him in the back, right? But he had a gun. And that guy who kind of saved everybody, but I mean, apparently, I guess he's walking out, so it's okay if you lose all your money. You just can't shoot anybody. Yeah, it's a little like this is not teased apart like to the T about it, right? Like the background check issue, like all of this. I mean, I think they need to do a little bit more legwork on this and like really find, if they really want to find out how we can actually resolve this once and for all, and make sure that like all of our our rights are protected, and at the same time like public safety is in place, right? If they don't do this,
want to.
no, they don't. They just
don't
want to
wanna
sit
ever
here and
finish
argue
anything
about
they
like,
start.
no, I took some notes about the training and the 18-year-old, right? I'm like, well then, you know what? If 21 you can buy a gun and make good judgment, then 21 they should vote. Not vote at 18, but not be able to carry a gun until 18. Right? I mean, and this affects people in the rural areas because they need it for hunting, they need it for other things, protection of their property and whatnot. And now you're telling them that they have to wait another 3 years. Then let's wait another 3 years to vote. Because if they're smart enough to vote an idiot into office, then they're smart enough to carry a freaking gun.
Well, if they're old enough to
God
go
bless
to the military
America.
and risk their lives, right?
That's
What's
another
that,
fact.
Bill?
If they're old enough to go into the military to risk their lives for this country.
Exactly.
With the gun.
Exactly.
And be
That's
properly trained with it too.
correct. No, and seriously, like, so, I mean, well then, if you want to train people to carry guns safely, let's put that course in a high school. Like in your senior year of high school, you get to learn how to carry, firearms, and so you could like
that might be a
safely
tough
carry them.
sell. It's gonna
And
be a
I'll
tough
tell
one
you
to
something
pass.
about that. I have a friend, Israel, right? Israelis have to all go through military, what's it called? Like military
Years in the
service,
military.
right? Yeah,
32
they
years
have
in
to
the
be,
military, yeah.
they have to be trained. And like my friends who have access to all this and have been in the military training, they all don't see, not everybody wants to have guns, right? Because they understand all the things about it. And that's a choice, but if you know how to use
Exactly.
it, it doesn't matter whether you have the right and, you have the right. It doesn't matter if you have one or not. Like Bill, right? I'm pretty sure he's not against the Second Amendment, but he doesn't have a gun. You weirdo.
No, it's true. I don't. I don't. Well, actually, I had a gun, and I had it at my place of business. One of my employees stole the gun.
Ooh.
Right. It was used in a crime in Sunrise, Florida. Found later on because I reported it right away. Found it later on. It was used in a crime, and then after that, it was in evidence for a while. Then they called me up and asked me if I wanted to come and get it, and I said no, I don't want that gun because I don't know what it did. And I didn't even ask what the crime was.
Yeah.
Right. But look, that was a gun that was obtained legally. That was a gun that was stolen and used in a crime.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I mean, I think there has to be a little bit more, like, this is another thing, right? Because like a lot of people are now afraid of guns being stolen, right? Obviously, like people who have, like, who pass the background check and get their guns.
Stop that. This ain't gonna stop that at all.
No, it's not going to stop that. But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying what they should actually do is like hold these gun owners accountable for putting their guns in a safe place that cannot be stolen, right?
Well,
and
if they
I don't
had it
know
on
how
them
you
most of the time, they wouldn't leave it in. They have to leave it in.
No, but I mean, like, even if let's say you have it in a house, and then you have it in the house, there should be some kind of lock or some safety, like a second safety measure for it, because like I don't know. I mean, I think that if your gun was stolen, you didn't report it, you didn't know about it, that it was stolen. Like, luckily, Bill actually reported that gun was stolen because he knew it was missing.
Too.
See? So, I mean, like, with that said, like, that's responsible gun ownership.
Correct.
And people shouldn't report that. And if they didn't, they should be held accountable as an accomplice in the crime.
Well, yeah, and that's a great area because again, sometimes they don't. You're right. They should report it. That should be a part. Yeah, I agree.
No, so you are constantly. That means you're on top of it, right?
Yeah,
you
no,
don't
I
just
agree.
leave a gun laying on the kitchen, on the coffee table, and then like one day it's gone, and you're just kind of like, oh, maybe I left it in the bedroom. I mean, like that doesn't work.
I kind of want to leave an excuse on the table, but no, you're right. They should. If they're a responsible gun owner, the minute you see your weapon's gone, you report it missing. That way, put things in place that protects you as well as somebody else in the future. So.
Exactly, I agree.
You know what could be done? I think, if they were going to make more amendments to this law, when you go for your driver's license, you study a book, you take a driver's license test, you got to pass the test. If you want to obtain a gun, maybe there should be a book. You take a small test, you do your background check, and then if you pass the test and a background check, there you go. Here's your gun. So you have knowledge of what you were saying that 2-hour class did, right? So you're buying a gun with some knowledge of proper use, proper safety of whatever that class was about. But that could be something that would help out in this law, because if you're gonna, guns are dangerous, right? There's no doubt about it. So you really should know how to use your gun if you're going to buy it. So possibly having a test like a driver's license test, it's a gun test. You pass, you submit that with your background check, and then if you pass both, there's your gun after your 3-day cooling period.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if that was the thing, I don't think we'd have this issue now. But again, like Lynn says, it's watching a video. We're getting rid of a video with a 2-hour. You can watch a video on YouTube. You can go to a gun range and have an instructor there. There's, you can have people solicit, responsible gun owner training classes. And, again, people would take the classes if they, no one buys a weapon and just lets it sit cold. I'm going to take it to the range. I'm going to test drive the car.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not like it's going to sit there and wait for an inopportune time to then just pull it out and just aim everywhere. I'm going to be responsible and go to the range and aim at the crotch because I can't aim.
I didn't aim for the crotch. I didn't aim for the crotch.
My thing is I'm going to take it out and I'm going to try and practice so I know if I aim down, it kicks up. So then, I can be responsible whenever I have to use the weapon. And that's bottom line. People are going to be responsible. Gun owners, legally able to carry gun owners are going to be responsible. It's the ones that are not legally able to carry should be concerned about this.
No, and okay, so I don't have the exact stats here, but just from what I've heard in the past, crimes, homicides from guns is actually fewer than knives and like beating. So I mean, you don't need a license for these, and you don't need a license for a knife, right? You just use a kitchen knife and
you can buy a knife in Walmart.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, like, do we need a license to buy a cooking knife? No. And that can be used to commit a crime. The crime is committed by the person, it's not committed by the gun. And the thing is, like, if I mean, when you see someone coming at you with a knife, man, I don't, I mean, I was fighting with my husband one time. I was in the kitchen cutting something. He was like, "Put down the knife." Put down the knife.
Because he knows you aim for the crotch.
It's like, oh, no.
So anyway,
He
let's
knows
go
you
for
got bad
final
aim.
thoughts. Let's go for final thoughts. Mo, what's your final thought on this?
My final thought is, I think this again, me personally, I don't know why this is like the biggest thing that the news is reported on. So many things that's taking place in legislation, but whatever, they picked this one. It's a good idea. I think, like Randy Fine says, you're evening the playing field. Nothing really changes in the law, with the exception of now you're giving people who went out, legally purchased their gun, the ability to take it outside of their home. And that's, again, if I purchase a weapon, I don't want to just be restricted to my home to be able to use it safely or use it legally. So that's my final thought.
Lynn, final thoughts.
Okay, so I want to address something that Dan Daly said when he was talking about nail techs 240 hours and hair salon. I mean, a hair person, right? Having to do 600 hours of training and all that.
Mhm.
Like, honestly, I'm going to tell you that I don't agree with any of those licensing requirements either. I think that, if you take a test, you pass that licensing, like, okay, you're not supposed to look. I mean, I'm a mortgage lender, right? I go through 20 hours of training and I handle some of the biggest purchases in people's lives. Like, why does a nail tech have to go through 240 hours? Now, with training, like that 2-hour video, no, it's true, right? Why do you have to cut somebody's hair? I cut my husband's hair. I've never had an hour of training. And then he just goes to work with his hair like uneven and he doesn't care.
He hasn't
But,
been fired yet, so.
he hasn't been fired. Nothing happens. It grows back. I mean, like, that's it. And I've cut his hair before. So I don't need like 600 hours of training. It's just a barrier to entry. Same thing with this whole thing that they're trying to put in training, is they're trying to put this in so that people feel a little safer. But the truth is, like, there's still people out there who are not licensed, who do not pass the background check, have guns that are not even registered to be sold in Florida or anywhere in the country, right? They're probably cartel guns that are coming from the border. But anyway, all of that said, like, I think, like, our rights stand. I mean, I strongly believe that our rights stand, like, regardless of like any of that. And the age should be reduced down to 18, because if they can serve in the military, they can actually vote, then they can own a gun, right? And that's that.
That's your final. Well, Lynn, I might disagree with you, because the person that did my hair probably had less than 600 hours, and you can see the result of that. So, but my final thought is this: people that are responsible are not going to commit crimes. People that are law-abiding citizens that don't want to go to jail, that want to live a normal life and want to have have a life that is not incarcerated and doesn't want to live on the streets and all those people are not committing crimes. So these laws, they're all great, and the barrier of entry, it's all whatever. If you're going to commit a crime, you're going to commit the crime. It doesn't matter what law is in place, what not law is in place. And I think that people need to stop changing narratives to fit scaring people into believing what's right and what's wrong, because that's all they do. The whole narrative on the left side is to scare people. All the right side is doing is saying, hey, look, we already have the background checks in place, that's staying. We already got the cooling off period, that's staying. We're not going to put you through another course and take more money out of your pocket, right? That course, obviously, if you were in it and you said you were almost falling asleep, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That course, if you're going to have
false.
that course, you should actually be handling your gun and learning how to
No.
shoot your gun.
I'm sitting in the pawn shop.
So, I stick with, I don't see anything wrong with the law that's being, changed. Do I think that they needed to even bother with all the other problems that we have going on right now, like cost of living and, the rising cost of insurance and people being dropped by? No, I think that stuff should have took precedence to this. But since this is on the table right now, I don't see a problem with it. And the left needs to stop demonizing every damn thing that's going on.
Hopefully, listen, folks who are watching, if you got an opinion on this, which I'm sure you do, please make sure you leave a comment on the bottom of this video wherever you find it. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and keep watching us in future videos. Till we meet again. Bye.
Bye.